Hello, I'm Sylvia, and this is a story about a love rivalry between me and my mom. When I was 17, I started dating Paul. He was 18, and he was a great guy, and I liked him very much. It was always so much fun hanging out with him, and after a short time, I thought I already loved him. There was only one problem. My mom. She is a very beautiful woman and looks 10 or 20 years younger than she is. So at first everything was great with Paul. But then I introduced him to my mother, and he looked at her really weirdly. I felt like he saw my mom as a more beautiful version of me. For the entire evening, Paul was chatting and laughing with my mom, and she was just enjoying his company. I kind of felt left out of the conversation. They didn't even look at me. After this, Paul mentioned how awesome my mom was several times, and I started to get paranoid. Does my boyfriend really like my mom? Could this be real? I decided to forget about it. After all, Paul was a nice guy, and maybe he just genuinely wanted my mom to like him for my sake. But every time they met, stuff like this happened again. They would talk for a long time, and when I hinted that maybe it was time for us to go and do something without Mom, Paul was completely oblivious to it. One time, we had planned to watch a movie one evening at home, and Paul decided to invite my mom to watch it with us. So I was sitting there, watching them, talking and laughing, stuffing my face with popcorn. After this, I decided to keep them away from each other. I tried to go out with Paul as much as possible, and if he asked about going to my place, I would always come up with an excuse, like I didn't want to go, or there was something cool happening in the city. One time I even said that my mom was sick, and Paul was like, "Oh, is she all right? Maybe we should buy something for her. Maybe she needs some medicine." Every time something like this happened, I wanted to talk with him about it. But how could I talk about a topic like this? "Hey, boyfriend, are you by any chance in love with my mom?" After a while, he stopped talking about her, and I thought that was it. But then my mom pleasantly surprised me. She bought us all tickets to another city for a few days. She explained they were really cheap and she didn't want to lose this opportunity. All the way there, Paul and Mom started talking again, and I tried to convince myself that it was fine. After all, I was also part of the conversation. When we arrived, it was awesome. We were staying in an awesome hotel, and our sightseeing tour was amazing. I even had some time to spend alone with Paul when my mom went to see her friend for a few hours. We ate some ice cream and took a romantic walk in the park, and by that point, I had stopped worrying completely. I thought that, yes, I was just paranoid. But this didn't last, and I finally realized that I was right all along. I was so tired this one evening, so I ended up sleeping for like 10 or 11 hours. When I woke up, there was no trace of Paul or my mom. I looked around everywhere trying to find either of them. I thought that they might even be in the hotel cafeteria, but no. I called Paul and he didn't answer. Then I called my mom and asked where they were. Mom said, "Oh, we decided to not interrupt your sleep and we went into the city by ourselves. We'll be back in an hour and then you can join us." What? I was boiling with anger, especially because it was such a weird situation to be in. I was in a very bad mood for the remainder of our trip, and I didn't talk much. Paul and Mom were asking me if I felt sick or if something had happened, but I said no. When they planned to go into the city again, I said that I didn't want to go and that I'd rather just rest in the hotel. I hoped that Paul, or at least my mom, would realize what was happening, but they were happy to leave without me. After we got back, I finally decided to get everything straight. One evening, when Paul and I were hanging out, I finally found the courage to ask him about it in a very straightforward manner. "Paul, "Do you like my mom?" He was like, "What do you mean?" And I just stared at him because he knew exactly